45 years, 0 name changes, new offices, more staff, improved technology to better serve you. Education, services, investments. Think real estate, think Marshall Reddick. Brokerage, property management, private lending, creating financial independence through real estate since 1979.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is Kristi. I'm Chris.
Hi.
We're going to talk a little bit about multi-unit investing in Southern California and what the different factors are that we want to look at when we're analyzing multifamily investment properties, how to analyze them, and which opportunities are available today. And we also kind of want to zoom out a little bit and chat about whether or not multifamily makes a ton of sense here right now in Southern California, and maybe there's other opportunities in other markets to explore. Thankfully, you're working with Marshall Reddick, and we are located in a multitude of markets, which we'll discuss a bit more in detail as we jump into things. But to start us off here, I wanted to just quickly intro myself. Once again, my name is Chris. I've been a licensed realtor for over 10 years now. And after getting my business license or my degree, I decided to jump into real estate. I just have loved serving investors over the last 10 years and have focused pretty much exclusively on residential real estate investing. I'm doing leasing and sales, but also doing project management for renovations, value add for multifamily, and have done some 1031s as well. So kind of just been all around the the merry-go-round for real estate investing, I guess you could say. I'm a proud mortgage fund investor, and I'm actually a big proponent of buying residential real estate, along with Kristi as well. And I'm in fact closing on a buy and hold single-family home in one of our markets just in a couple of weeks. So I know Kristi is holds multiple real estate properties. So we definitely love to, I guess some of our folks like to say, eat the dog food here at Marshall Reddick. I like to say drink the Kool-Aid, but either way, we practice what we preach.
Yes.
For those of you that are relatively new to Marshall Reddick, I just want to briefly cover the different services we offer. We love to really consider ourselves a one-stop shop for real estate investors. So with that in mind, we offer 4 distinct services. First is our real estate brokerage. We have agents in every market that we operate in that are boots on the ground, hunting for good deals, whether that's single family, multifamily, flips, buy and hold, you name it, we're going to be able to go out there and source that deal for you, whether it's on market or off market, and they specialize in investments. Obviously, we can help you sell your primary single family home, but I think Kristi and I both think investing is a little bit more complicated, a little more interesting for us at this point in our careers, and that's what we really strive to exceed at. So now, of course, if you have just bought your first investment property, you're probably quickly learning that just finding your investment property is like 5%, 10% of the battle. The other 90% is operating the asset and squeezing as much income as you can out of that property. And we think you would be best served by having a property manager at your beck and call to hire in order to make that asset operate as best as possible. So our really, really savvy team of property managers know how to craft great leases and include all of the addendums and disclosures and be on call 24/7 for emergency maintenance lines and enforce the lease agreement. So we do offer property management in all of the markets that we're currently located in. And on the other side of that, if you need funding for your next real estate deal, we also are a private money lender. So we do lend money out to folks that are seeking more creative financing or non-conventional financing. For those of you that maybe have 11 properties in your own personal name, you can't, Kristi, right? You can't get conventional Fannie Freddie guideline financing. And if you want to close on a flip and you've got a motivated seller and you want to get them cash and close in 10 days, well, good luck doing that conventionally. So we help service those clients that are either have too many assets or are using a creative way to buy real estate. And then to help facilitate that, we also collect funds, or I guess source capital from our capital partners in order to lend that money out, and then we get paid on the interest on those mortgages when we're lending money out. We've got a mortgage, and that borrower pays us a really nice interest rate. Well, for our capital partners, we then go ahead and return out a distribution of roughly 2 to 2.25% per quarter, which is like an 8%, 8.5% yield per year, which is a really nice, steady way to invest in a passive real estate without really owning the real estate, operating the real estate, and you're diversified from the stock market. So the investment fund or the mortgage fund is something to consider if you are looking for a little bit more passive way of earning money on your money. I know Kristi's also a fund investor as well.
Yes.
Like I mentioned, we're going to cover a few topics today on multifamily, such as what is cap rate, what's value add, how to find a good property manager and what's the importance of a property manager, different ways to finance those deals, and of course, a couple of different case studies of different properties that we've managed and helped our clients buy and operate, and some deals that are on the market today. So sit back and relax, learn a little bit, ask some questions in the chat. If you want to engage in the chat, you certainly can. Write down some questions and be sure to reach out to us after you're done, we're done with our webinar, and we'd love to schedule a consultation with you. Kristi and I are both advisors for Marshall Reddick, so we try and learn as much as we can about our clients and help facilitate their next transaction. So that means finding out where you're at in your journey, what criteria you have, what kind of capital are you working with, what's your experience, what markets do you want to invest in, whether that's here locally in California or potentially out of state, and what's your risk tolerance? These are all major questions that we're going to ask you and help you get to the next stage in your investment journey. As I mentioned, we are in a multitude of markets, not just here in Orange County, but we have offices in Los Angeles, San Antonio, New Braunfels, Austin, Houston, Cape Coral, Nashville, Clarksville, and there's a very good reason why we're in some of these markets. And if you all have noticed, if you're based in Southern California, especially, some of the prices for multifamily or single family has gotten pretty exorbitant. And as an investment vehicle, it's gotten tricky to navigate that landscape and still generate cash flow. So being in these markets have helped us facilitate our clients' portfolio growth by looking at other markets that have a really great trajectory for growth for the next 5, 10, 15, and 25 years. This is an awesome slide because it gets to show Kristi's face, and she's always nice to look at. We've got our team assembled here and across all of our different markets, and frankly, we couldn't do any of this without our property managers and accountants and in-house analysts and private money guys, and everyone. I guess it takes a village to operate real estate, and these are the people that make it happen. So I've learned so much from everyone in this picture. Everyone teaches me a new thing each day, and it's just a pleasure to learn and get to share experiences with all the people across our many different offices. I mentioned that we're in different markets, of course, but how do we select those markets? The short answer is very carefully. We look at various factors, but these 7 criteria are most essential, and we analyze each market year after year. Firstly, we got to look at the job market. We have to understand that there's no shortage of available jobs, and employers are moving there, and employees are moving there as well. And we don't want to have high unemployment. Vacancy rate, meaning we want to make sure that there's demand for rentals, right? In some markets, there really isn't much demand for rentals. It's all high percentage of homeowners. So if you own a rental property, you might be sitting on the market for a while. Economic diversity, super essential. We don't want any just one player, one employer that's dominating the market. And if they decide to leave, well, we've just lost half of the jobs in a particular city or area. So you want to be in a large enough market that has education and maybe military, potentially, like San Antonio. And you want to have tech or manufacturing, warehousing, transportation, healthcare. All of those are major components to facilitate good real estate. Housing affordability, we think this is a really important component too, because in California, we might not know how much more runway we have for growth, just because affordability in comparison to incomes is really being outpaced. Now, if we look at a place like San Antonio, where the average single family home sells for around $300,000, I think there's a lot of potential for the average home price to continue to go up. And that is also in relation to multifamily. For multifamily properties, cap rates are a little higher out there. We're going to talk about cap rates. I think they have opportunity to compress a little bit as rents increase because people are moving out to those markets in droves. Much higher migration pattern for places like Texas and Florida and California in some respects. Landlord friendly. We also like to be in landlord friendly areas. California can be a little difficult to navigate if you're potentially thinking about buying multifamily in California. Now, we get really great rents out here, of course, and it's a great place to live, and everyone wants to live in California, but it can be very tricky to navigate certain laws like AB 1482, RSO, and JCO if you're in the city of LA. And of course, we like to see strong education, so universities tend to breed white-collar jobs, which are high-paying tenants in the future. And then reliable property management. We are in all the markets that we mentioned, as a property manager, and we are pretty well reviewed on places like Yelp and Google. Encourage you to check that out. But if you don't want to choose Marshall Reddick, make sure you have a backup, and don't be in such a small market like, I don't know, Chattanooga or Topeka, Kansas, or something, where if you are stuck with one property manager, there's no one else to go to. So make sure you're in a relatively large metropolitan area if you're going to choose to invest in any type of real estate. Why multifamily, and why are we really here? What are we talking about, right? So what does multifamily have to offer as an investment opportunity? I really like the idea of economies of scale, getting multiple doors with multiple rents, growing at the same pace. If I've got a 4-unit building and I have an opportunity to increase rents because rents have gone up over the last year, well, I get a quadruple hit to increase my rents, which is fantastic. And the price per door is substantially lower than single family rentals. A 4-unit building might sell for $1 million, while a comparable single family home in the same neighborhood is $500,000. So you get 4 doors for twice the price. I think that's not a bad deal. Same thing when it comes to economies of scale for appreciation. You know, if you've got your single family home for $500,000 appreciating at 4% a year, but your 4-flat at $1 million is appreciating at 3% a year, well, that's $1 million appreciating at 3%. It's actually significantly higher than that $500,000 property appreciating at 4%. So and of course, competition these days is really, really, really challenging. More so a year or two ago, I would say, with lower interest rates. Kristi, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
But as interest rates have gone up quite a bit over the last, 18 months, competition's fallen off, but especially in the multifamily sector. Multifamily cap rates were really compressed for a while. They're starting to expand, meaning that demand is kind of shifting. It's becoming more of a buyer's market as sellers are starting to realize that buyers are willing to pay less for their properties. Now, what I really like as well is the opportunity for value add or forced appreciation with multifamily. You can take a multifamily property and juice it up and rehab it. Kristi has a ton of experience doing this, and she's probably bringing a couple of examples of hers with recent buyers and developers and clients she's worked with to do this. But you can add units, you can add bedrooms, you can add simple things like changing the parking situation or changing the laundry situation to increase rental income or increase operating income. So if you increase the value, you're going to, for your rents, you're going to increase the value of your property. It's a simple formula with the cap rate. I'd love to introduce you to Kristi Dietz, and take it away.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Kristi Dietz, and I have actually, I'm going to age myself here, but I've been with Marshall Reddick since 1996. I moved to LA in 95 from Florida, and I kind of grew up on job sites. My dad was a a builder and engineer my whole life. Of course, that's not what I wanted to do. After graduating Florida State with a BS in Business Economics and a BA, I moved out to Los Angeles and I worked as an executive in the music business for years. But while I was working in the music business, I happened across Marshall Reddick's class. He was teaching at Santa Monica Community College, and my art class was canceled on a Saturday, and I popped into his after hearing him. Anyone could buy rental properties, whether they make $10,000 a year or $100,000 a year. Now, of course, this was back in like 1996. So there I was, I became an avid and started learning, just like you're on a presentation today. I would go to every presentation that he did and every class that he taught. And I learned slowly but surely how to invest in rental properties. And I took all the money I made from my job as in the music business in marketing and product management to purchase rental properties. I have been a realtor now. Eventually, I left the music business in 2000 and joined Marshall Reddick. I have been a realtor for 24 years. I've sold over 500 properties. I'm located in all of the Los Angeles market. I live in Woodland Hills. I have purchased actually 24 properties now through Marshall, well, 23, and then I just inherited 24 properties through Marshall Reddick. I am also a Marshall Reddick mortgage fund investor, meaning that I invest in our fund, which provides notes and gives money to other investors for their property. And I am also a client of the mortgage fund. I have 2 loans through the mortgage fund. As Chris was mentioning before, I can no longer qualify for conventional financing. I can only qualify for the DSCR, which he's going to talk about a little bit later, and also private money through the mortgage fund or other private ways. I get my money through the mortgage fund. I have a lot of experience with builders, developers, investors, and I project manage jobs from time to time as well. I am a mom of 2 college-age kids. My son Harrison just graduated UCSB and is going to be going to law school, and my little one Olivia is her sophomore in college and will be going to med school. But I've definitely raised them in real estate for sure. I've dragged them to every property. I involved them as much as possible since they were like 1 year old. I have 3 dogs. 2 of them are rescue dogs, and I volunteer all the time for animal rescues. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about economies of scales and the differences of buying, in this case, 4 doors versus 1 door. So if you purchase a 4 unit, the purchase price is $800,000, in example to the 250, and we're just making easy numbers here just to kind of compare. So if you're purchasing a 4 unit for $800,000, and the price per door goes down to $200,000 a door, versus if it's a 1 house is $250 per door because you just have 1. And on 4 doors, you're getting a gross monthly income of $9,000, where if it's just a single family home, you're getting a gross monthly income of $2,250. So properties to maintain, you have 1, and more doors you would need to create that equivalent cost would be 4. So the equivalent cost is $1 million. So if you look at it side by side like that, you see that you still have 1 property maintained, but you get a lot more bang for your buck, so to speak, if you have more doors in the 1 property, and you create a lot more cash flow for yourself.
And one thing to really consider with the single family home is that if you have 4 single family homes versus 1 multifamily building, well, with a single family home, now you have 4 roofs, right? You have 4 lawns.
4 ACs.
Yeah, 4 ACs.
For everything.
A lot of multifamily buildings might have a system-wide, building-wide HVAC, less maintenance because you have 1 roof, 1 plumbing system, 1 electrical system. So
less landscaping normally.
Less landscaping. So things to consider. Now, of course, some folks would be advocates of single-family home investing because of the trends for appreciation, which is definitely undeniable is the best for single families, but there are ways really to juice appreciation for the multifamily properties, which we're going to talk a little bit about when it comes to value add.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of people get hooked on the cap rate or capitalization rate on properties, and it's a lot easier to make money on your cap rate, looking at cap rates when you're buying out of state. In Los Angeles, the cap rates are typically very small because our property values are so high and the incomes normally don't substantiate to the property values. So the cap rate is basically just taking your net operating income divided by your purchase price.
Exactly, that's absolutely right. Now, we could do some math if you guys want to pull out your calculators, but probably not. We'll save that for another day.
Let's see if anyone has questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone has questions about how to calculate cap rates, we can do that. I mean, maybe we'll do a little example here as well. But yeah, very simple is that it is the net operating income divided by the purchase price is your cap rate. And cap rates are really driven by the type of market that you're in, just like Kristi mentioned. Cap rates in Los Angeles might be 3 to maybe 4%.
Maybe if you're lucky.
Right, which basically means if you just put 100% of cash, right, you did no financing and you went and bought a multifamily property, your net operating income is going to be 4% of that cash that you put into the deal, right? So kind of like a 4% return, which isn't too great unless you're investing for tax benefits.
Yeah, like you need the write-off. You need to have the negative cash flow. And I did that earlier when I was buying properties. I wanted the negative cash flow to offset my income. But as you change in life, maybe you've been married, you have kids, maybe one person isn't working anymore, maybe you're retiring, that's not what you want anymore. You want more income. And you're not, yes, you want appreciation, but you're more concerned with the income and you want the income to be better.
And that second factor would definitely be appreciation, right?
Right.
Because if you look at maybe like a market, I don't know, I'm just going to use Beverly Hills, right? That's unlikely to go down in value anytime soon. It's kind of like a blue chip neighborhood in the sense that it's always been pretty high demand there. It's close to a metropolitan area, high net worth over there, lots of high, maybe retail shopping and development plays. So if you bought multifamily, maybe that land itself is going to be worth mega bucks to a developer that comes down the road to you in 10, 15, 20 years. Lots of opportunities like that in LA, but it's more of like a tax benefit or appreciation play. Whereas in other markets, I operated in Chicago for the first 10 years of my career. And I know folks that were hitting 10% cap rates on multifamily property. That's a 10% return just looking at your net operating income. But those 10% cap rates were reflective of pretty rough areas. C or D class really. C class is more cash flow. B class is a bit of appreciation and cash flow. And A class is more appreciation focused. Beverly Hills would be luxury, A class luxury. And this market in Chicago, where you have a high cap rate, is more of a D class. So when you guys are looking and you see a market where they go, oh wow, the cap rate's 8%, 9%, and you look in maybe a couple neighborhoods over, everything else is trading at 3 or 4%. Ask yourself, is that property, does it need a ton of work to stabilize it, or is it in a really bad neighborhood where, yeah, maybe the cash flow looks good, but wow, actually, you're going to have a ton of tenant turnover. You're going to have a ton of property incidents like crime surrounding it, and maybe not a lot of appreciation down the line. Any thoughts on that?
Well, the bigger the units you have, also normally you're skimping on the quality of tenant, because you have two different types of tenants. You have tenants that like to live in apartments, and you have tenants that like to live in homes. So when you're buying a duplex, triplex, fourplex, you're attracting more of the family or young professional type tenant. When you are going 5 units and up, 5 unit, 10 unit, 15 unit, you're typically attracting people that are more in a transient place in their life. It's normally not families. Normally it's people that are just in school, just in college. Maybe they're just starting a career. Maybe it's a blue collar career or a very working class career. And to them, they're more of it's a stepping stone. It's more of a turn and burn. So the problem with apartment buildings is larger apartment buildings, especially every year the tenants move out. Where in a home, especially even 2, 3, and 4plex units, you'll have tenants that stay on an average 3 to 5 years. And why is that important? Because that's less wear and tear on your property and less amount of repairs and maintenance and rehab that you need to put into your properties.
Absolutely. So I'm, just kind of focusing on this cap rate calculation. Let's just say you guys are looking at a multifamily building that generates $35,000 in net operating income, right? Maybe the property's a 4-unit building, they rent for $1,250 a side or so, and the total gross income is $5,000 a month or 60 grand a year. But you're going to have expenses, right? You have property management, you have taxes, you have utilities, insurance, right?
Repairs.
So, repairs, vacancy, all that needs to be taken into account when you're looking at your net operating income. Remember, net operating income is really what you want to be looking at. So let's just say that net operating income on that $50,000 or $5,000 a month in rent per month really translates into like $35,000 a year in net operating income. Okay, well, you can figure out what your cap rate is by taking $35,000, okay? And let's just say it's on the market for sale at $1 million. Take $35,000, divide that by $1 million, and your cap rate is going to be 0.035. That's really just a percentage. That's 3.5%. Okay, so your cap rate is 3.5%. Pretty typical, I would say, in the LA area to see cap rates like that. In a place like Texas, your cap rate might be closer to 5, okay? Or Tennessee, maybe 5.5. And in places like Memphis, maybe you're looking at 6%, something like that. Now, cap rate conversion, or reversion, I should say, is just your net operating income divided by the cap rate to find your value. So if you don't know how much a building is necessarily worth, but hey, you know what the cap rates trade at and you know what the net operating income is, you can find the value of it. Just take your net operating income, $35,000 in my example, divided by that 3.5%, you're going to find that's $1 million value. So that's how you do cap rate conversion. Fairly simple. We'll send you guys the slides to this if you want to figure out how to calculate this on your own.
Do you want to see, make sure there's no one in the chat that had asked any questions?
Yeah,
just really quick.
Definitely.
I think we just hit the chat button there, chat arrow.
Cool.
Yep, it looks like there's a couple people that were asking questions. Oh, no.
Okay,
Nope,
cool. No
that's
questions.
it. No
If you guys have
questions.
any questions,
Okay, great.
please let us know.
Yeah, I just don't want to miss anyone in case sometimes people like to.
We jump into math and it gets a little confusing.
Yeah. Okay, well, you just talked about that. You just talked about cap rate reversion. I think you kind of beat yourself to it to the slide.
Yeah, I beat myself to this slide. I already kind of explained this one, but well, the most important thing is cap rate's going to change according to the market. Yeah. Southern California has stayed very consistent with their cap rates. We're starting to see, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit less demand from buyers as interest rates go up. Financing more difficult to attain overall. So sellers are starting to have to come down in price on their properties, which actually increases the cap rate. So it's very correlated.
Okay.
If you are going to seek financing when you're looking at multifamily properties, it's possible conventional lending doesn't make sense because when you're looking at a 5-unit building, you're not going to be able to get conventional financing. That's going to be a commercial financing product. So you might want to do something called a DSCR loan, which is a debt service coverage ratio loan. Basically, it's just asset-based financing. The lender is going to strictly look at how much income does the property generate and how much expense is there on the property. And obviously, the lender wants to see a little bit more income than expenses in order to provide you for the loan. Typically, these are going to be higher interest rates than standard conventional financing because they're not underwriting your fact that you're a physician, maybe as a full-time job, you're a doctor. They're not looking to see, oh, well, you make $1 million a year, $500,000 a year. Here's your debt to income ratio. And they're looking at your whole lifestyle and unfolding your life. If you've done a conventional loan recently, it's crazy complicated. And you have to submit every single document on demand.
I don't have to do that.
Very, very challenging. But private lending is a lot quicker, a lot easier to close because they're only underwriting the asset and typically pulling your credit. And that's about it, really. And you can get financing, but just be prepared for slightly higher interest rates.
And the fees, index points too,
are
higher.
Yeah,
fees are higher.
Definitely. Origination fees are going to apply. Now, once again, we have our private lending department. These can change, of course, according to the market and supply and demand for loans and private loans. But If you're looking for a rental loan, meaning you want a DSCR loan, a debt service coverage ratio loan, and you want to hold that property for, on a 30-year amortized loan, you can definitely do that with us. Your rate's going to be 7.95% on a 30-year, and the loan to value is going to be at least 70%, meaning we're not going to do 5% down loans with a 5-unit building or a 4-unit building for that matter as well. You're going to have to put pretty substantial down payments of at least 30%. And of course, maybe the property that you're buying needs renovation. Our private lending department does lend money out for renovation funds. So that's something to look at. A lot of multifamily does need reno. And if you want to do the acquisition and a renovation bundled in one, we can definitely help you out with that. Now, these are short-term loans. These are going to be 12 months. And what you're going to want to do after you complete your acquisition and stabilize the property by doing your renovations, renting out the home, or the units, I should say, you're going to want to refi into either a conventional loan if it's 2 to 4 units, or if it's 5+ unit, a DSCR loan, a debt service coverage ratio loan, or a commercial lending product.
Yeah, and if you guys watch HGTV ever, there's a show on there called Renovation Aloha, and almost all of the loans on all the properties they flip on that show are all done through Marshall Reddick Private Mortgage Fund, and one of our guys, Aaron Byrne, did all those loans for them, and they're using exactly this type of loan. And they just turn and burn, and it's a great show. It's HGTV Renovation Aloha, and I think they even mention us a bunch in there, but that gives you a perfect example of how they're using it, and then they turn around and sell the property and pay off their loan.
Yeah,
and then go into another one.
Great for flipping property.
Yeah.
So if you're a home flipper, obviously acquisition, renovation, short-term loan, 12 months, you're probably not going to want to hold on to that property for longer than 12 months. But this also can be used for multifamily if you do want to refi into, cash out, pay off Marshall Reddick's private lending department and get a more standardized loan on either through conventional financing or DSCR. That's totally fine. And then if you're looking at 2 to 4 units and you want to do conventional financing, totally doable. Rates today are around this, 6.5% to 7.25%, depending on your down payment, depending on your DTI, your debt to income ratios, your income, your credit, all of those factors combined. And right now we're actually seeing really good options and opportunities from developers in some of the markets that we operate in that are buying down the interest rate pretty substantially and offering concessions for us to get the rates down to, in some cases, 4.25% on 4 units and 2 units, which is pretty outrageous, which shows you that there's a lot of opportunity in this space for conventional lending for that 2 to 4 unit multifamily property.
Yeah, and the reason they're willing to do this right now is 2 reasons. One reason is because we have in some of the markets it has switched to a buyer's market, and then also a builder cannot go on to their next phase of building until they completely sell out their current phase and pay off the loan for that phase, their draw. So if they have 2 or 3 or 4 left in a certain phase, they'll say, hey, Marshall Reddick, why don't you offer it to your investors and we'll buy it down to you to 4.25%. You win because you have some investors getting some great properties, and we win because now we can show the bank that we've sold everything in this phase and we can go on to phase 2 or phase 3. And they do the same thing over and over again. And they know that they can count on Marshall Reddick to sell the properties for them and to find some great investors and also handle the property management.
Yeah, excellent point. And one of the reasons some of you may be thinking of this is why aren't they just lowering the price as opposed to offering concessions? Well, builders, whether it's single family home or multifamily property, they really are unlikely to lower their pricing because they've either got another phase coming up and they don't want to set the appraisals at a low bar, right? Because that sets the appraisal low for the rest of the community, for the rest of the duration that they're tied up in that project. So they'd rather offer big fat concessions for investors to buy multifamily properties that are looking at 4 units or 2 units in places like Texas and Florida to attract them. And those really low interest rates make it so you can cash flow on multifamily out of state. If you are thinking about looking at conventional financing, whether that's single family, multifamily here in California or in other states, many states, we've got, I think, like 15 states listed here for read, but primarily Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida.
I think he and his team does all 50 states.
All 50
actually.
really, and for this team. So
he doesn't, his partner does.
Reed's a very valued partner for us. He's a lender we've been working with for 20 years. He's very experienced working with investors, and he's an investor himself. Here's his contact information. If any of you want to talk to Reed, reach out to Kristi and I. We'll be happy to connect you with Reed.
Yeah, Reed has been with Marshall Reddick since about 2000, 2001, something like that. So I've known him forever.
He was a little younger in the pictures.
Yeah, he was 19 when I met him, and now he's, what, 40? Something like that, 37, 40, right around there.
Property management, we offer property management. If you do have a multifamily property, you're sitting here like, I know all this stuff, I just need a property manager to help me with my building. You come to the right place. We can help you out here in Southern California. We charge what we think is a really reasonable rate for the service that we provide. And I'm really proud of our property management team. I know most of our teammates that have investment properties use our property management. My home that I'm closing on in San Antonio, I'm going to use our team out there. Like I said, look us up, look at our reviews. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to go over our services and with Kristi and detail. So we just want to cover a couple of different properties that we have in our portfolio that we've recently closed on or closed on in the past, and how we've stabilized those buildings, increased the rents, and increased the value of those buildings. Kristi, I don't know if you want to talk about Burbank. That's a different
yeah, I mean, I'm in Los Angeles. I actually reside in Woodland Hills, and I have been a realtor in the whole Los Angeles market, you know, since 2000, as well as I've gone out to Palm Springs and a bunch of other areas. But so in this case, we manage 5-unit building in Burbank, and the owner has $13,270 in monthly rent. They purchased it in 2013 for $1.375 million. So you can imagine what it's worth now. The market value now is over $2.5 million. And they are able to do substantial rehab and be able to increase the rents. Because when you beautify a unit, or even if you add on to a unit, one of the things that's happening in Los Angeles right now is the citywide, they're making people that have carports do retrofitting, and same with balconies. But you really don't get any additional money onto your property for that. You're just kind of almost throwing good money after bad. So one of the things you can do as a workaround, instead of just retrofitting that carport, is don't have the carport anymore and put a couple ADUs, accessory dwelling units, add a couple more units in there. And the city will let you do that, and it's not even that much more expensive to do it. And you are increasing your rent so much more by doing that, because you're in essence adding 2 more units, and maybe bigger units than the ones you already have. So this one has almost $1 million in appreciation, and because of doing rehab and over time, you're constantly increasing your rents, but your mortgage stays the same. So they've been able to increase their rent $750 per unit.
Yeah.
So then that increases their cash flow.
And the best way to like do this and understand this with real numbers, if you have your own multifamily property, you know, you can take, let's just say you're in Burbank and the cap rate is 3.5%. That's probably accurate, you know, roughly. Okay. That may even be a little high. Maybe it's 3% nowadays. I don't know, but 3.5%. If you had, let's just say you started off with rents, gross rents of $80,000 per year. Okay, that's your net operating income is $80,000 per year. All you got to do is divide that by 0.035, and your building might be valued at $2.2 million. $2.2 million. But let's just say you're able to increase the rents because you've done some renovation, you've done some really cool work, or maybe you've added a unit like Kristi mentioned, and now your net operating income per year is, let's just say it's $110,000. You've increased the rents quite a bit, right? $110,000 per year. Divide that by 0.035. The cap rate stays the same because it's Burbank. The cap rate is consistent. Divided by 0.035. Well, your building went from 2.2 million to 3.1 million, okay, just by increasing the rents. So if you need to put in maybe $150,000, $200,000 worth of work into your multifamily building, you're going, why should I do that just for, an extra 20 grand in rent a year? Well, it's because you're increasing the value by multiples of hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially in a place with low cap rates in Los Angeles or Orange County. This is a duplex actually that one of our dear friends, AJ Bialik, recently sold. This is a real life listing example where we managed the property, but we helped the buyers acquire it for about $1 million. Rents were $21.50 per unit. This is a really nice duplex in a very, very lovely area of Dana Point. After we did some substantial rehab in 2023, we got the rents up to $39.50 and $36.50. And with that $250,000 rehab and increase in rents, well, obviously we increased, just based off of my previous example, the value considerably. So the value went up to $1.6 million. So with a $250,000 renovation, we essentially got double that money back, which is pretty fantastic. And we're still managing this particular property. The purchaser actually hired us to consistently stay as a property manager. They wanted that consistency in the transition. And then we do have some current and upcoming investments that we just wanted to discuss with you guys. There is a great 4-unit property in Gardena. There's not a ton of cash flowing assets in the LA area right now, but this is a pretty good representation of a 3.5 cap in this particular market. It's listed at $1.2 million. It actually came on the market today. It's got some deferred CapEx, which would be CapEx is capital expenditure. Probably needs a new roof. Looking at some of the aerial views, and some of those units need to be turned over. If those units go vacant, you're going to want to increase the rent. Initial repair costs, we budgeted $100,000. You can see we break down all the calculations in here, including the down payment, closing costs, but gross rents for this property, even just at current rents with the tenants that are currently occupying them, is $7,700. If you were to do some value add, those rents per month would probably go up to around $9,000 based off of the market analysis that Kristi and I did. Right now, interest rates, like I mentioned, about 7% for a 4-unit, and the taxes, insurance, management fee per month, and any other utilities that you have to take into consideration. This is going to be, cash flowing at $39 with a $500,000 investment. And this is pretty typical, would you say, of looking at LA right now?
Because you're in it more for the appreciation than the cash flow.
Absolutely. And potentially, if you stabilize this and got the rents up to $9,000 after you're able to put in $100,000 worth of, maybe $200,000 worth of repairs and improvements, you're looking at a little bit of cash flow. But really consider what the appreciation does for you over time in a market like Southern California. I don't know too many people that bought multifamily real estate in SoCal and regretted it, after 20 years of holding on to it.
Well, the thing is our prices are a lot more here. And so your down payment is higher, but the thing is you're appreciating on other people's money, the bank's money. So granted, you're putting $418,000 down here, but you're appreciating on $1,195,000, where out of state, you might put $40,000 down on something, but then you're appreciating on $250,000.
Yeah.
So you're just not getting as much appreciation. You're making a lot more money on other people's money to be able, the bank's money.
Absolutely.
For appreciation.
It's definitely a long-term play. I would say any real estate investing is a long-term play, but especially multifamily in Southern California.
Yeah. A lot of people think like they can do a get rich quick, and just like, oh, I'm just going to jump in and out of real estate. It's not like that. It's not like the stock market. You don't just jump. That's one of the benefits about real estate. It's almost like a forced savings plan. You put your money into something and you can't just on a whim turn around and sell it. Where with stocks or something you can. Right? And this is more like a forced savings plan.
Definitely. Kristi, if you want to talk a little bit about this particular property, but just to caveat this, because we're in other markets, not every property is going to fit that's located here in Southern California is going to fit our clients' criteria and goals. We talk to clients that are definitely sick of California for many reasons.
Yeah. So like I actually showed this property to some clients of mine today that I'm an advisor on, and I connected them with one of our Texas realtors, and we're looking at 1031ing properties that they have in another state and that they've had for 15, 20 years, and they're selling them, and then they'll take the money from that and they'll buy multiple other properties in other states that make sense. And one of the benefits of new construction is typically you have a 10-10 warranty, which covers you for 10 years on all major components of the house. And I've bought new construction before as well through Marshall Reddick, and really I'm just now starting to do things on that property 20 years later. Now, when people move out, they're staying in there 3 to 5 years. You have to paint, clean carpet, change carpet, of course, you have those expenses. But on this particular property, it's a brand new construction in San Antonio. List price is just under $1 million, and then the down payment $298,000, but it gives you your initial repair cost, which is just about nothing. Closing costs are lower there as well, out of state. You have gross rent of $6,100, and then we're able to get that builder to buy down the interest rate to 4.25%, which is phenomenal. It makes a huge difference in your cash flow. Then you have taxes, your insurance, management fee, very small HOA fee, and they cover like the front of the yards and the streets and all of that. Landscaping, small amount for the rear yards. So your fixed monthly expenses are $54.72, and then you have a monthly income of $627.81. So you have quite a nice positive cash flow compared to, which that's probably about a 5% cap rate compared to California, where that same thing would be like maybe a $30 or less, or a negative cash flow. So you do put money away for any maintenance and vacancies and things like that. And so you also get a really nice tax write-off on top of this. You can write off your taxes, your insurance, your property management fee, any maintenance on the property, repairs on the property. So you get a really nice tax write-off too. And people always laugh when I say this, but I haven't paid income taxes since 1998. All the money I make from my jobs, whether it was in the music business or being a realtor, which I do full-time for Marshall Reddick, all of my rental properties, because of all the write-offs, I offset everything. And I always say you either give $50,000 to the IRS or $50,000 into your properties, putting in, maintenance and repairs. Either way, you don't have the money, but it's better to pay yourself than the IRS.
Oh
don't pay the IRS. No.
I love it. Yeah, don't pay if you don't have to. That's right. The benefit of real estate.
Like my CPA knows. We're selling my mom's house right now, and I'm on a 3-way text with my sister and my CPA, and I'm asking him different questions, and I'm like, James, you know how I am. I don't believe in giving the IRS even $1. So you need to make sure, are we doing XYZ correct? Because I don't want to give the IRS anything. And they're like, no, you're okay. And he goes, yes, Kristi, I know, believe me. Because I always say, not even $1, James, not even $1.
Well, one thing that, to Kristi's point, that we actually calculate is your anticipated depreciation over time, over that 27.5-year period for, not commercial property. Commercial properties over a different time period, but 2 to 4 units, you're going to have a 27.5-year period to depreciate that asset. One thing to consider if you're looking at California versus Texas or out of state is you can't depreciate the land. So that's a common misconstrued factor when people will think when they buy investment real estate, oh, I bought a place for $1 million, I'm going to depreciate that $1 million over 27.5 years. Not the case. You have to take out the value of the land. Yeah. Well, in California, the land is a lot more expensive.
50-50.
Yeah, it's 50. There you go.
And in other states, it's 80-20. So the improvement is worth 80% and the land is worth 20. In California, it's 50-50 to land to home value.
You know your stuff. So yeah. That's exactly right. In fact, even in some areas of Texas, it's like 85 potentially. So that just means you have a larger percentage in out-of-state markets to depreciate over that 27.5 period versus California, where 50% is attributed to land. You depreciate a heck of a lot less for your tax purposes. So.
And land, this is why land is a horrible investment, because you don't get the tax benefits of land, and it costs you a ton of money for the land. You have to clear the land, keep it fire free. You have to pay the taxes on it. If there's an HOA, you're constantly paying on this land, but you're not getting the tax benefits for it. So most of the time, it's a very bad idea to buy land unless you're buying it for a specific purpose, like you're going to be building on it, or maybe you're going to build a second home on that land. You have to have an immediate purpose for that, for land. Otherwise, don't buy it because it's a bad investment.
Absolutely. I speaking of bad investments, I think you should probably talk a little bit about the Reddick property rating ebook. I feel like you know this thing, like back.
Maybe. Yeah, so we have the property rating ebook, which is marshallreddick.com/ebook. And I absolutely, this is a golden manual for Marshall Reddick. It's 38 pages. I absolutely think everyone should read it. I even read it all the time from time to time. I keep a hard copy of it right behind my desk in my office. And it's just a really phenomenal book on how we rate properties, why do we buy B, A, and Lux properties, and how if you're buying a C, D, or an F property, not only how many problems you'll have with the tenants and the property itself, but you will get more cash flow, but then the property basically gets run into the ground, and it's such a difficult investment over the long run compared to what our model is to buy luxury A and B class properties. So you're not only getting cash flow, but you're also getting appreciation, which is a happy medium, and you appreciate really well. And this also talks about all the demographics, like why do we buy in certain areas? What things are important? Why is employment? Why is moving to the Sun Belt? And me personally with my rentals, I like to buy properties in cities that have national football, baseball, hockey leagues, international airports, international ports, all of those areas, because you also, employment is so important. And how do people get in and out of the cities, and how is tourism affecting it? All of those things. And that talks about all of that in our property rating ebook.
Love that. Thank you for that explanation. Also, if you want to jump on our website and look at other articles and videos and webinars just like this, but on different topics like 1031 exchanges and the tax benefits of real estate investing, single family versus multifamily, all sorts of different guides. Feel free to explore and take a look at properties. But really, ultimately, if you want to sit down and jump on a consultation with Kristi or I'm not sure why your wonderful face isn't on here with your contact information too, but
no one wants to speak with me.
Wants
they only want to speak with you.
But, feel free to
I'm an afterthought.
say Kristi or Chris. We would love to speak with you, and reach out to us. We want to sit down with a consultation and learn what you guys are looking to accomplish, so we can set you on that path, whether that's multifamily here in Southern California, or if it's a single family in Texas.
Just to make sure there's no more questions, just really quick. I just want to make sure that we didn't miss anyone, just in case. No questions. Okay, perfect.
Perfect. All right, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I hope you guys learned a few things, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thank you so much.